Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today we have a big show. Baseball is back. Opening day was yesterday. What a wild day of baseball. It's good to have the sport, the Summer Classic back. So much exciting stuff going on in there. We're also going to break down the first half of March Madness as well as the upcoming games that are today. We finally had a bunch of upsets. For really the first time in this tournament, there were a whole lot of upsets. We're going to break all of that down in our second segment. In our third and fourth segment, we're going to take a look at some interesting relationships between players and teams. Mike Trout and the Angels, and Draymond Green and the Warriors, and everything that goes between those two players and their respective teams. But like I was saying, in this first segment, we're going to talk a little bit about opening day. But before we do, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net, leave a tip or donation, leave a message in it. It'll pop up on the bottom of the screen here for you, me, anybody else watching to see. We'll have a little discussion about what you had to say. Once again, that link to leave a tip or donation is gsmcpodcast.net. But like I was saying, we're going to start off... Oh my gosh, excuse me. We're going to start off today's show talking about Sweet 16 upsets. The Sweet 16. Got my order a little mixed up there. I apologize. March Madness Sweet 16 kicked off yesterday. We had, for the first time really, like I was saying, a bunch of major upsets. We had the first one seed of the tournament go down. We had a 3 seed beat a 2 seed in one of the best games of the entire tournament, a tight one all the way through. And we had a 6 seed in Clemson take down Arizona. That region down there at the bottom, that West region, Alabama, Clemson, the 4 and the 6 seed, we're finally getting a little bit of chaos here in what otherwise has been a really chalky year for March Madness. Alabama plays with pace. They are a team that can shoot the living daylights out of a basketball. Their strength is offense. Their weakness is defense. And they've just been able to overpower teams offensively with their pace. North Carolina just couldn't. It was a tight game, but down the stretch, North Carolina just didn't quite do enough. And really, you look at these numbers. If I didn't see the score in front of me, I think if you look at the numbers, they're very even. I would have taken North Carolina to win this game, but they didn't play at their pace the whole game, and they just kind of came unraveled there at the end. And the Crimson Tide are the first team to take down a 1 seed. They will be taking on Clemson, the 6 seed. The 6 seed Clemson, who was picked by probably the vast majority of people in the U.S., to lose to New Mexico. New Mexico was a very popular Cinderella pick in the beginning rounds, making the bracket. They beat them. They then again go and beat Baylor, and now they beat Arizona. Arizona and North Carolina. There's 2 star players, both of them, who used to be both on North Carolina. They both were 0 for 9 from 3. And when your star player isn't making their shots, it's going to make it a lot harder to win games. Clemson has come in, and they've been really consistent throughout this entire tournament. And that's why they've won these games. They've scored 77, 72, and 77. They've given up 56, 64, and 72. You know, these teams are getting better. Their offense is staying consistent. And if you can put up almost 80 points in a March Madness game, you're going to win most of them. And Clemson has done a really, really good job of controlling the pace of play in their games, not letting the opponent dictate how they play, not letting them get sped up, not letting them slow down. I've been very, very impressed by this Clemson team. Bracket busters for sure. If there were any if there was anybody with a lot of stake left in those brackets, but that West region has collapsed. You know, the 4 and the 6 seed in the Elite 8. A lot of these teams haven't made the Elite 8 in quite some time. Illinois, who beat Iowa State, the 3 seed, they're going to take on UConn. 72-69 in that game. Again, this was one of the games I was most excited for. This one right here, you take between the Illinois Fighting Illini and the Iowa State Cyclones. The best defense in the league taking on the best offense in the league, at least by KenPom ratings, and it did not disappoint. Both of these teams, it was back and forth the whole time. Iowa was able, or not Iowa, excuse me, wrong I state. Illinois was able to break this one out. First time they're in the Elite Eight since, I believe, 2005. So it has been quite some time for this program. They're going to take on UConn in the Elite Eight, a team that is coming off a national championship season. But today's games, there are a couple of really, really good ones, especially down there in the bottom right corner of the bracket. Purdue and Gonzaga, they played earlier this season. Purdue beat them by 10. This Gonzaga team is hot, though, putting up 86, 89 points in their last two games, winning by 20 in both of their games so far. Purdue has also been dominating, 78 and 106. They've also won by at least 20 points in both of these games. Both of these teams have looked unstoppable. And when you have a guy like Zach Edey, and when these two teams have already played before, so I'm very excited to see how it differs. Gonzaga has time to figure out how to not let Zach Edey beat them. Purdue knows what works before. I'm interested really to see what adjustments these coaches make. I'm very, very excited for this game. That game is tipping off shortly. And the other game in that region between Creighton and Tennessee. Creighton and Tennessee are both teams that you take a look at. Creighton and Tennessee are both very similar teams. Tennessee might have the bigger star in Dalton Knecht, who's looking at being a lottery pick in this year's draft, but the Jays go deeper. The Creighton Blue Jays, Creighton has a team of 4 or 5 guys that can kill you every single night together, and that's what makes them so good. It's very, very tight between these two. I expect this game to be one of the best in all of March Madness. I know we've had some thrillers so far, but Tennessee and Creighton just match up so well against each other. The deciding factor in this game is whether Tennessee comes out and plays their brand of basketball. Tennessee is a 2 seed for a reason. They're really good. They have a great defense. They have the stars on offense to carry them. But sometimes they just kind of come out flat. Every once in a while, Tennessee will just come out flat. And it's unfortunate. There's nothing really you can do about that if you're Tennessee. I mean, you have to come out in this game. But Creighton is going to be Creighton. And if Tennessee can play their best ball, I think they can win this game. Either way, it's going to be close. I'm very, very, very excited for this game. And the other two games that are today, you have Marquette taking on Cinderella NC State team. That's the first game, actually, that starts at 7. And then Duke at Houston. Marquette at NC State. I don't think NC State stands much of a chance. We love the run that they've been on so far. Obviously, 11 seed is the lowest seed, still alive in the tournament. The only back half seed to make it. The next highest seed was that 6 seed Clemson, who did end up taking down the number 2 seed Arizona Wildcats earlier. We talked about, but NC State, as hot as they've been, Marquette just is a better team. Marquette is the first real juggernaut that they've run into. They played Oakland in the last round after they beat Kentucky, and then they beat Texas Tech in the round before, who wasn't really a super strong 6 seed. So they've kind of, don't want to call it a cakewalk because, teams make it to the tournament, they're good. Any given day in basketball, anything can happen, especially college basketball. But taking on Marquette here in the Sweet 16, this is the first massive test they've faced since the ACC tournament, since North Carolina in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament. They haven't really faced an elite team since then. So it's been quite some time. I'm not sure if they've still got it. They had to go to overtime against Oakland, and if they play like that, you know, they shoot. They, they just need to make their shots. They don't. I just don't see them winning this game. I'm excited to see if they can keep it close. I'm rooting for them. We love our Cinderellas, but Marquette just seems like a buzzsaw. The way they're playing. If you watch them play against Colorado, it was a close game. It was a tight game, but when they really turned that second gear on, it was scary to watch. They were so efficient. They were almost like a perfectly cohesive basketball team. They were able to get to the rim however they wanted against Colorado, who I know isn't the greatest example shining of defense, but that team is really scary. Marquette is. At the other side of that bracket at the top, Houston at Duke. Duke, who I just saw play one of the best games of college basketball against James Madison, heartbreaking. My James Madison Dukes never stood a chance when you're shooting 50% from three. If they continue to make their shots like that, it doesn't matter that you're playing the second best defense in the country at Houston. They're going to win that game. If Duke plays like they did against James Madison, there is not a team in this entire nation that can beat them. Now, they were making all of their shots, and they were getting all of the rebounds. You take a look at the rebound disparity between James Madison and Duke, it looks a lot closer than it was. But when you were watching that game, especially in that first half, the JMU Dukes could not get a rebound. And if they play aggressive like that, I think they can beat anybody, any team. Houston is a juggernaut, though. I've got Houston winning. I've got Houston winning it. I don't think Duke can play like that every night. I really don't. And Houston's defense is built to stand up to the way that Duke plays a little bit. They've got big guys on the inside. And Marquette, I've got them. I just don't see. I think there's too much of a power disparity between Marquette and NC State there. And then in the bottom, that bottom bracket, I'm very, very excited for. I do have Purdue winning this, although that's probably going to be those two games are going to be my favorite. I've got Purdue and Creighton, but I could easily see it going the other way. Those two games, I'm super hyped, super excited to watch. Let me know in the comments what you think about these games. If you think there's going to be more upsets, who your national champion is, if your national champion from the first bracket is still even alive. In our next segment, we're transitioning into some baseball. Opening day was yesterday. The American Classic sport is back. We're going to break down some of the big stories from the day, as well as some stuff that's been going on today. We'll be right back on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.